Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the PowettPlay Podcast. It's me, Jordan Shannon. As always, I'm joined by Kieran Powell. How are you, Kai?
Not too bad, John. How are you? How's your
Yeah.
weekend been?
Yeah, lovely. Thank you very much. How's yours?
Very quiet.
It's always good. Always good every now and then. Um, but there's no better place to start, really. We've been discussing it for weeks and weeks. You called it 8 to 10 days ago, I think it was. Great news. Roston Chase has been named the Test match captain.
Yeah, I think given obviously the options that they I guess shortlisted or made
Yeah,
made public, I think it was the obvious choice. Now hearing reports sort of seep out about the results of the psychometric testing and stuff that
yeah,
people would have gone through as well. And apparently he would have told, I guess, in the upper echelon of those results compared to the other candidates as well. So
yeah,
no, not surprised. I think just from a cricketing standpoint, it makes sense. I think that again, it's something that probably is going to last for the next Test Championship cycle. So you're looking
yep,
at probably a 2 year period. What's going to be interesting there because I saw something yesterday where Zimbabwe are playing 11 Test matches this year. And I think the West Indies, Zimbabwe are playing the most test matches of any nation in the world
Wow, I didn't know
this year.
that.
Yeah.
Right.
And the West Indies are only playing something like, I think, maybe six test matches this year. So it's going to be interesting because you look at a Roston at 33, six test matches this year, probably, what's that, maximum another eight next
Yeah,
year. And that's the end of that test cycle year in 2027 already.
yeah,
It's going to be interesting to see if we're back in that position again, because obviously they've chosen a Drumel Warrican as a vice captain. And as I've said before, I don't think that your vice captain should be necessarily too close in age to the captain because you want to always have a succession plan.
yep,
So for me, I think that if you're gonna select Roston Chase, remember I said the other option for me as well that would have been feasible for captaincy for a short-term period like this would be Kim
you're
Roach.
okay,
But
definitely.
obviously they didn't go with that. So for me, the vice captain should have been someone like a Jaden Sears, who's obviously a lot younger than Roston,
Yep,
um, experienced playing the team, senior playing the team at this point in time. I think it's
yep,
safe to say that he's a senior playing the team at this point in time as
yep,
well. And you can start putting him into situations where he's gathering leadership credentials because he wouldn't have had any of that before.
yep,
But it's also realistically only going to be sort of a 2 to 3 year stint.
yep.
So you still haven't necessarily shut the door on some of the other guys that were in
No,
contention, like a Joshua De Silva, a Tevin Imlach,
yep,
Justin Graves, etc. But again, all of that comes down to performances over the next, I guess, 2 years, which would be sort of a 14 test match period,
yep,
and who's in and around the team at that point in time. And that's why I said, for me, the most likely and viable candidate for a vice captain would be Jaden Sears because he will be in the team.
yep,
Barring injury or anything like that. And it's someone that, makes the team on merit. So I
yep.
think that, that should have been the road traveled, but nevertheless, they've made their selections. And personally, I'm quite happy with Roston as a captain. I think that, lots of people have been, I guess, talking about, let's say his average has slipped to mid 20s and his bowling average has
Increased.
ballooned. But I think what you'll see is obviously the added responsibility of leadership and
Correct.
him taking his game back to higher standards. So I do expect his average to start climbing again. And I know that Rustin is a man that really studies the game, understands the game, and has a lot of pride. So I do expect him to put in strong performances with both bat and ball. And no, it's I think he'll be a good leader for whatever period of time he's there.
Yeah, definitely. And I just think I'd just like to add as well, obviously, a huge congratulations to him because, to represent, to captain at the highest level is an amazing achievement. And I think that, the negativity towards it, people need to get behind him now. and support him, because it is a tough ask for whoever was going to get the captaincy. It's a tough ask, and I think that yeah, people are going to highlight, the 2 year period that he hasn't played Test cricket, and as you've mentioned before, he should have been playing. That's what we believe he should have been playing in that period of time. But at the end of the day, Daren Sammy he must have obviously put him forward to do that, and what he mentioned about working with these players and understanding these players to sort of use, to sort of from a leadership perspective. So there's more to it than people keep going back to the stats and the averages. I appreciate that's where people are going to look at, but obviously he fits the mold of what they want from a leader, what they want to nurture this group of players in this next test cycle, as you mentioned. So he fits the bill for them, and that's important from, like I said, from nurturing this next group of players through. You mentioned there some of the names there. Joshua Silva will be 28, 29 next time around. Tevin Inglack will be late 29, 30, sorry, 29, 30. Their time will come, and this period will make them stronger as well. We mentioned about Joshua Silva. He's technically out of the side as well. He's got,
Yep.
he went through a bit of a rough patch form wise, which he obviously responded perfectly in the regional 4 day tournament. But in this period here, throughout, he might look back on in 2 years' time and think that's what made me the player I am now.
Yep. 100%. I think that he needs this time away from international cricket as well. And I mean, there's no sort of easy games or anything in international cricket, but
Yeah,
I think the next two series in particular are going to be quite daunting for the players that are playing. Obviously, Australia being the number one team in the
yeah,
world, and then playing India, who will be coming off of a series here in
in the UK.
England at the end of the summer,
Yeah,
and India going through a transitional period. Obviously, Jasprit Bumrah, potentially maybe Ravindra Jadeja's last series
yeah,
before he retires as well, that Indian series at home. Um, so it's not going to necessarily be the easiest task, but I think that whoever is selected, I think what's very important is the preparation going into
yeah,
those two series, as I've stated um, before. But I think that, as you said, Joshua De Silva can only be a better player from this if he does the right things, goes away, continues to work on his game,
yeah,
and just, enjoy the time out, because that, as you said, is what makes you a better player when you come back. We've had some greats of the game have been dropped.
yeah, yeah.
So it's not the end of the world. It's just something that gives you an opportunity to reassess and come back better.
Yeah, definitely. What did you make in terms of the statement that they released about this sort of testing that they went into? Do you think again, is that a bit of unnecessary sort of when we last spoke, it was rumored, obviously, it was reported that the names obviously went through the interview process. The Cricket West Indies made the statement and obviously officially announced that obviously the names that went through the process. What did you make of the statement in general?
I wasn't quite pleased about it. I think, as I said in the last part we did, there's some things that's too much information as well.
Yeah.
And I just think that they gave a bit too much information, things like I think Shea Hope refused
Yeah, I didn't like that at
the
all.
captaincy, because then that takes, I guess, the polish off of Roston being
Yeah.
announced captain, as if, like, your second
Second
choice.
choice, basically. Yeah,
Even
exactly.
if that's the case, you don't need to
No,
let
no,
that be known. You don't need to let
no.
everyone know who was a part of the process.
Yeah,
This is the guy we've selected. This is the direction we're going. Same
yeah,
as you did when they took the captaincy away from Rosman Powell and gave it to Shea Hope. They never said XYZ were also in
yeah,
contention. They said Rosman Powell has been replaced by Shea Hope.
yeah,
End of story.
yeah,
Um, and that's how certain things needs to be as well, because then it sort of undermines the position that you've given to someone, because then other people will think and know, oh, okay, well, this person is captain because that person refused it. So I'm
yeah,
not necessarily a big fan of how it was done, but I do think that it was the right person. I don't think that Shea Hope should have been um, given Test match captain, and that's me speaking from a position where my wife represents both
yeah,
Shea Hope and Roston Chase, both
yeah,
captains of the West Indies team. But that's just me being completely honest. So I think that they've made the right decision all in all, for where West Indies cricket is at right now, and I do think that Roston will do a good job.
Yeah, I'm looking like you mentioned before about obviously knowing him and knowing that he will take that responsibility on. So you see it, you will, hopefully anyway, we'll like see the spike in the performances, and that's one thing that some of the negative, outlets reporting on Roston being made captain is that you've got to give him the opportunity to take that leadership, and it helps to develop players. You look at sporting performances, people do perform differently under pressure. People do perform differently when they have that responsibility on the back, and I think that's when you do see the best of sportsmen at times. Sometimes when the back's up against the wall and various bits. So I'm really looking forward to see how he takes to the role and how he works with Daren Sammy, because he has worked with him before, which is another really important thing that's sort of slightly gone under the radar, in my opinion. He's worked with him with the St. Lucia Kings now for the past X amount of years. So they have a relationship from that managerial perspective. Sorry, coach from a coach perspective to to a player. So these are things that shouldn't really be underestimated in a way of helping and benefit and moving West Indies cricket forward.
100%. And I think that you'll also see a potential spin-off in terms of Rushton's leadership, because I think that I've heard that Faf du Plessis is probably not going to be a part of the CPL. So I think Roston may get that captaincy position as well for the CPL, which will only continue to help and
Exactly.
progress his leadership credentials as well as going forward playing red ball cricket for Barbados for the next few years as well. So he will get opportunities to, I guess, sort of refine his leadership credentials.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I think, as you mentioned, I think yeah, it was in the last podcast that about how Daren Sammy, it was success, obviously captaining from a white ball perspective in terms of the World Cups last time you mentioned. Again, when you're working with somebody directly, Roston will learn so much with working with Daren Sammy as well. And that again is something that's really, really important. So I'm really looking forward to it. I know, obviously, like we've been very, very positive about the situation in terms of Roston potentially taking over the captaincy, but I think there is a lot more positives out there that people are probably not yet realizing as well. But that's just my side of things.
100% agreed. So I mean, I'm just looking forward to it. I mean, lots of people have varying viewpoints. I
Which is
think
going to
that
happen.
that yeah, I mean that may be a good thing for West Indies cricket because now people are talking again, now
Well,
people are
yeah,
interested. So I mean, at the very least, that's a positive that's come out of it, and hopefully now, regardless of what, these people turn on their TVs, go out and support
yeah,
West Indies cricket.
definitely. A couple of things I wanted to sort of discuss with you was one was the changes in the white ball series over here, and then also then the upcoming ODI games against South Africa from a West Indies A standpoint perspective. So just quickly, I mentioned obviously that John Campbell and Jediah Blades has come into the series against Ireland with Romario Shepherd and Shafane Rutherford, returning to the IPL. Is that you pretty happy with those changes, or what was your thoughts?
Um, Interesting. I think they would have probably gone for a John Campbell because they're probably looking for another left-handed to replace their left-handedness of Sherfin Rutherford. Um, Obviously,
Mm,
Sherfin Rutherford bats down in the order, whereas John Campbell is an opening batsman, and you've already got Evan Lewis as the established opening batter and the left-handed option up top, which I
yeah,
don't think will change. So um, I'm not sure how that will play out, but I mean, again, it comes down to a situation where left, right is
yeah,
what they try and do in limited overs cricket. So if Evan gets out early, I think you'd probably see John Campbell going in, or whenever Evan gets out. And for Jediah Blades, I mean, obviously he played in that last series against Bangladesh based on the performances he'd have had in the Super 50. So I think it's just an extension of that. I mean, obviously you had a few more of the senior boys that were fit in the Matthew Ford and the Shamar Joseph coming back into the team. Hence, he'd have missed out because he came into the team on the back of them being injured
yeah,
in the Caribbean. So I mean, it's just continuation in terms of next in line, and obviously him being a left-handed option as well, left arm seamer
yeah.
adds a bit of variety to the bowling attack as well. So I think
Yeah.
it's just the selection team trying to continue to have that left-handedness
Yeah.
towards the team in terms of having variety and options that they can exploit to use against various matchups and try and give themselves an opportunity to exploit certain conditions or situations in the match.
So do you see both of them featuring? I know you mentioned last week about rotation. Do you see them featuring at some point during the series?
They will play at some point during the series. Whether they'll play a consistent part of the series, I'm not too sure, but they will be called upon at some point in time during the series.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And then in terms of obviously the South Africa A one day team, they haven't selected anything yet, have they?
They haven't, but well, they have, but it's not been named publicly because I mean that starts on Wednesday, so there's
Yeah.
no way they haven't selected anything. But we've selected our team.
Well, we did, yeah. Wonder if
Yeah,
they'll use that.
yeah.
Oh, well. Let's go with that. They've selected it. We're happy with it, so we'll let them announce it and go with it.
Have we announced our one day team for that series? I don't think we have.
But it you I don't know, maybe we didn't actually.
No, I mean let's can we pull it up? Don't we
I
have it
will
in the
be just
chat?
um so the 15-man 50 over series squad that you picked was Lenico Boucher, Justin Greaves, Amir Django, Sonny Lambris as the captain, Jewel Andrew, Kevin Wickham, Shakir Paris, Yannick Correa, Joshua Bishop, Brad Barnes, Matthew Ford, Jediah Blades, Jaden Seals, O'Shane Thomas, and Marquino Minley. So there's going to be obviously a few out of that for obvious reasons, but that was what you predict or what you was suggested should be the squad for the 50 over series for the games against South Africa, right?
Yes, no, obviously a few of those are in Ireland at the
Yeah,
moment, so that's not possible. But this is, I guess, what we preempted then.
yeah,
Um, and I think again, a lot of it is down to continuing to provide opportunities and exposure to
yeah,
next in line players. I think people like Casey Carty, for example, I'd love to see in an A team in a captaincy position.
right,
Just
okay,
just just from that standpoint, just to see what it would be like for him. Obviously, with his position continuing to be established in the 50 over team.
yeah,
Um, I think guys like Alec Athenes, etc., need to continue playing this type of cricket and continue to develop their games and score runs, score consistent runs, heavy
yeah,
runs against quality opposition as well. So
yeah,
I think that could only benefit these types of guys. But I just think on a whole that the A-team program needs to be reestablished, as I said a few episodes back, where you have a home series, an away series to some part of Asia, and an away series to whether it be Australia, England, New Zealand, South Africa. So you have two different types of away series, so players could continue to improve against fast bowling, and they
yeah,
can continue to improve against spin bowling as well. And it's, I guess, doubly beneficial because by the time these guys do get promoted to the international team, they would have played in some of these conditions and
yeah.
it won't be all foreign to them. So
No,
they'll know, okay, I came here 3 years ago, I came here 5 years ago. This is what it was like then. So
yeah,
I'm better prepared and I'm a better player for it going
of
back
course.
into these conditions.
Yeah, definitely. And that's where we go, sort of full circle again to when we started this podcast today talking about the selection process of Roston being named captain. Like this is the situations where you have to when you want to be looking at, you know, planning for the future. So who do you see your leaders in 4 years' time, 5 years' time, even shorter in 2 or 3 years' time? And that's when they can pick up this leadership style of techniques and understanding the role of captaincy because I think one of the when they talk about the testing that they carried out for the role this time around, I think you'd like the names that you mentioned, all the names that you mentioned there. How do we help them develop their leadership skills? So what can we do from a leadership program? Do we, can we help to develop their leadership styles, and understand who they are individually, so that then when we fast forward 2 or 3 years down the line, we're not necessarily having to carry out these psychometric tests because we know each of these individuals what sort of captaincy style they have, and at that point, then you pick your captain based around what you feel will be most suitable at that point. It's not about testing; it's about understanding your personnel or the personnel, should I say?
100%. And that's, I mean, we've had very good leaders in the past. It's not
Massively,
as
yeah.
though we don't have very good leaders.
No.
And you're not just restricted to cricket. You've got good leaders in government. You've got good leaders in the business environment. You've got good people, business coaches,
Yeah,
leadership coaches. You can, when you go on tours, you can seek out people from those respective
yeah,
countries as well. I know there's a lot of cross leadership connections in the UK, for example, with football, cricket, rugby,
yeah,
track and field, all the various sports and industries where leaders meet up and discuss different ideas and how things work in their field. How can you get it to translate to a different field? And these are all, um, I guess, simple things I would say for
yeah,
this day and age that we're in. I think that it's important for me that whatever group of players, because obviously there's always going to be a few players in and out, but holistically, there's going to be a core group of players that are next. There's going to
yeah,
be a core group of players that are now.
yeah,
And the leader needs to understand, or the leaders in those respective groups needs to understand every single player in that group. So
yeah,
you can just tell by the way someone comes to breakfast or by the way they warm up
yeah,
what's happening, what you're going to get from them today.
yeah,
This guy's been having issues. Maybe his dad is sick. That's playing on his mind.
yeah,
This guy's been having issues. He's got a slight niggle, or someone's just had a baby. Just
yeah.
all the
Of
different things, all different
course.
components and facets of their life that affects and contributes to their on-field performance. So um, I think once we start to dive deeper into leadership and what it is, then we'll start getting the results that we need to get.
Yeah, definitely. And that's when it goes back to the statement that the West Indies made when they talk about the final recommendations are based around the leadership, respect within the team, cricket knowledge, personal conduct, media and communication skills. These are all elements of what make great leaders. Is all of those, well, the more so obviously, but the six areas that what they released in the statement. So as much as people want to break down various bits of the analysis of why Roston was made captain, it's these key components that, do you know what? Yeah, you can analyze the statistics of his how many runs he's got and his 2 year absence playing Test cricket and the wickets he's taken. But if he ticks all those six boxes, that is what is important for them for Cricket West Indies moving forward. So people have to understand that as well. And as you mentioned there about from a leadership perspective, you mentioned about someone with the parents being ill or something going outside of cricket. That's when that respect within the team becomes massively important because it's the arm around the shoulder and it's the understanding of what they can help, how they can help them. And ultimately, yeah, at that moment in time, they need to focus on their family to make sure everything's okay. But when it comes back round and everything's sorted, that person has so much respect for that captain who looked after him when he needed him most. And that's when you see that increase in performance. And that's where the respect within the team is such an important aspect within leadership and growing leadership.
100%. And so, I mean, it's if you identify the right people, I mean, you should know your people.
Yeah,
If you identify the right people and you continue to train them and develop and harness these skills, because this not only goes to, I guess, team leadership, but this goes to their individual play, how they live
yeah,
their lives, how they conduct themselves in and around society. You're gonna get better team performances because you've got several leaders within that. You have the captain, you have the vice captain, you've got the leader of the bowling attack, the leader of
yeah,
the batting unit. The wicket keeper is always a leader. So you've got already instantly you've got five leaders on the field.
yeah.
So it's easier to delegate and have less pressure on the captain who can then just focus on making the right bowling changes and field placements while other leaders are taking care of other things on the field and throughout the game.
Yeah, totally agree. Totally agree. And I feel like that's one thing we've discussed quite nicely today is obviously this actual role of leadership and how important it is to get that right and the influences that they can have within a team. So, yeah, it's been good to obviously focus a little bit on to a lot of the cricketing side of things. But it's also leadership, like you mentioned, is outside of, it's not just sport, it's in general. I think it's quite good to discuss that today.
Yeah, 100%. I think what's going to be interesting as well is, I guess, the performances from this A-team series. That's something that I want to look at in
Yeah,
depth because I think right now the one day team is in a good building stage, obviously towards that 2027 World Cup.
yeah,
But you look at the performances of the breakout league that just happened, and obviously a few players would have been identified. You look at a Michael McKenzie, for
yeah,
example, with the leading wicket taker. Um, I think that you're gonna see some team is gonna pick him up in the CPL. Keep looking out for that. And I have a sneaky feeling that by the end of next year, he will be in and around, at the very least, some sort of A
yeah,
team, if not a West Indies limited overs team, because we're looking for leg spinning options as well.
yeah,
So he's someone that I think is going to be fast tracked. And so you look at this A team series, you want to see who does well there
yeah.
to see who could potentially be added into a touring party and given an opportunity as well when some of these more senior players like Sherfin Rutherford, Romario Shepherd, etc.,
Yeah.
are unavailable for T20 leagues, etc., around the world.
No, definitely. And you mentioned there about Mick McKenzie done superb. He did really well. I seen that he got five for in the cool and smooth as well yesterday or the day before. So going places big time.
100%.
No. And that's yeah, lovely. Well, anything else you want to discuss before we wrap it up?
No, that's it. I think lots happening in the world of West Indies cricket this week.
No, doubt.
This is going to be an interesting series. I think for me, if West Indies can win this series 2-1, because I think Ireland's gonna at least win one game. I think that would be a successful series.
Yeah.
And then come to England and try and do the same. But I'm sort of thinking Ireland maybe 2-1, England maybe 2-1 to England. So a 50% record on the tour is what I'm pretty much expecting. But let's see. Let's see how it works out.
Yeah, well, we'll touch base again after before we do the England one because I've got a couple of things I won't mind discussing with you from an England side of things.
Yeah.
I've got a few. I think England are really. So we'll save that. We'll save that for when we discuss when we catch up back end of this week or early next week at some point. I'll save that for a different podcast. But yeah, let us know, people, what you think of what me and Karen discussed. Obviously, let us know what you think about the news. Obviously, Roston Chase being named captain, and what we've discussed here from a leadership side of things and moving forward. Let us know. Comments, we like them, we respond to them. Karen loves to hear what you think, and he'll get back to you. So appreciate everyone listening, and we hope to hear from you all soon. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.